Hey, this is Matt Wenning at WenningStrength.com, and today we're going to talk about another topic that really crushes people, and that is how to build power out of the bottom of the squat. So a lot of you guys stick at the very bottom, or you're coming out of the bottom in an improper position, which is causing your lifts to fail. So let's dive into how I would fix that particular problem. Well, let's face it, the squat is one of the trickiest lifts if you get really good at it, because you have a lot of different positions. You got to go down, you got to retrieve the energy and come back up, you got to maintain technique, and it takes a lot of balance. And a lot of those things cause a lot of problems in a lot of different areas. But what I find is that it tends to cause the most problem at the bottom. And the reason is because at the bottom, obviously, most people are in a painful position, right? I mean, I've never squatted a great weight that felt amazing on everything in my body. Usually it has some pain and some discomfort involved. And to stay in a good position is not necessarily easy. So sometimes people look and say, hey Matt, how do you keep your shin straight at the bottom of a squat? How do you keep your back upright and still sit back? The question, or the answer to that question, is it's very hard. You got to have a lot of the right muscles, and it's also the reason why you don't see people advocate squatting the way I do a lot, because it takes a lot of practice to get really good at it. But then again, you'll notice I'm 42 years old now, never really had any injuries, and had multiple world records. And a lot of the people that tell you how to squat reverse of how I tell you, they're blowing their knees off, they're retiring before they're 25, 26. I mean, it's common math. Now, I'm not saying that everybody can squat exactly like me, but take some tips off of that. Now, what that has to do with coming out of the bottom is that if you're pushing out, which is step one, that kind of makes you utilize your glutes and your hamstrings to help assist the lift. So a lot of the reason that you fail at the bottom is because you think you're going to stand up with your legs. And that's only partially true. You're actually trying to stand up with your entire body, which is including your posterior chain. So how you fix out of the bottom is getting your posterior chain stronger. How do we do this? Well, a lot of 45-degree back extensions, a lot of reverse hypers, a lot of exercises that are going to get you insanely strong. But notice that I said a couple of exercises that don't have a lot of spinal compression. Now, the reason is that normal squats are already going to cause a ton of spine compression because the bar's on your back. So what you have to do is, if you're utilizing those lifts to get better, or let's say you're an athlete, or maybe you're just a general population person that's just trying to get stronger, you need to be aware and cautious of how much volume you're pushing on your body in a compressive fashion. So what I found from being a kid and having a broken pelvis and legs when I got hit by a car at 6 years old is that the deadlift really started to affect my ability to do a lot of deadlifting. So what I had to do was figure out a way to attack all those muscles without beating them down, and all of a sudden I started using a lot of traction-based movements. Lifts went way up and mileage went way down, or stayed very tolerable. Now, what this has to do with the bottom of a squat is that the posterior chain tends to hide, or have, most of the ability to make you better. So I would say that 90% of you guys watching this, your hamstring to quadricep ratio is off, meaning that your hamstrings need to get stronger than your quads in order for your squat to go up. It's a balance, checks and balances type thing. Okay. The next thing is you don't know how to use your glutes to train. So if you can't use your glutes to stand up out of the bottom of a squat, then it's going to shift everything to your knees. And this brings me to my next point. The next point is that most of you guys are missing out of the bottom on a squat because your form deteriorates. Now that means that you're probably not pushing out and your knees are shifting way over your toes. Now, for a lot of you guys that watch a lot of my videos, you might look and say, Matt doesn't look like he squats parallel. Well, if you actually look from the side, my hip joint to my knee is actually below that point. But my squat technique is so efficient that it looks like a shorter range of motion. And that's exactly the goal. The goal is to break parallel without any wasted energy. How you do that is by sitting back and pushing out at an equal distance. Now, some of us are going to have more advantages than others depending on femur length, right, and torso height. But in general, we got guys in here that are 6'6" that can squat perfect, all the way down to 5 foot ladies. So the point is that it just depends on how long you want to develop your squat form, and most people are too impatient to develop a good form. So let's focus on the posterior chain on the bottom of a squat. The next thing that's probably causing you to stick in the hole on a squat is the upper body and postural strength. If you can't hold your chest up at the bottom, you're going to dip over and it's going to shoot your butt up first out of the hole. It's going to turn it into more of a good morning. We've seen it all the time. Now, where this weakness may lie is not only in the upper back, like in the thoracic area and around the scapula, but also in the core. If your midsection and abs, especially TVA or transverse abdominis, is not super strong, when you go to flex standing up, you're going to absorb energy versus retrieve energy. And what that means is that if the weight's on my back and I have to push with my legs, well, then I have to transfer that energy into the bar. Well, if I'm absorbing energy in the core, then one, I'm not putting the energy into the bar, and two, it's probably deteriorating my form. So you're going to have a strong, super strong midsection. So we do a lot of kneeling crunches, we do a lot of decline sit-ups, we do a ton of planks and winning planks. And we'll show you these videos in this. But the point is that make sure your core is not the weakness in the bottom too. One of the big muscles that fires right out of the bottom of a squat is your obliques. And that means your obliques need to be insanely strong to not only stabilize the pelvis, but also let your body transfer power from the legs back up into the bar without absorbing power. Think of it like two dishes. If I have two plates and I put Jello in between the two plates, when I turn the top plate, the bottom plate does nothing, right? The Jello absorbed all the energy. But if I super glue the plates together, when I turn the top plate, the bottom plate turns. That's a very simple way to look at your core and how it has to be super strong in order to have a good pop out of the bottom. So I hope this helps, and if you're having technical issues, hop onto our online coaching and let the professionals dial you in every week, or at the very minimum, go look at the pictures and the details and how to train correctly on the manuals. Talk to you guys later.